of what's been happening this year, a lot of the stuff that he and I were talking about months and months ago is now coming out in the press about your health. And we'll talk about that. I've got everything I need. I got my guest on the line. I've got my Propaganda Report podcast coffee mug. A shout out to Monica Perez. And let me shake this up a little bit. Look at this. My Nutrition World green drink. I see Ed Jones giving me the thumb up. I'm about to unmute him, and I'm about to bring him up in the stream with me. Ed Jones, did you have a good New Year, sir?
I did. I had a great meal, went to bed about 9:40, slept well, and thankful for that.
And I was asking you beforehand, are you ready to be done with the new year? And you kind of shrugged that off. You go, I like new beginnings. I'm not done with anything. I just like new beginnings.
Yeah, I guess the older I get, the more philosophical, suppose I become with life. And, everything's not black and white. There's a whole lot of living that is a mixture of dark and light together. And we don't have to push one away in order to have the other. We can have both together and come to peace with that. And, of course, move forward in the most optimistic way that we can, which I really feel that the good thing about turning the corner of a calendar, it marks the passage of time in such a way that it's so definite that it does give us the incentive and the fuel to regroup and say, we're in a new race today, or we're in a new game today, and I'm ready to move forward with a maybe different attitude and with gratefulness for the lessons I've learned of the previous times in my life, and go forward and be brave.
One of the things that we say all the time, and I say it to my kids daily, if I get a chance to, if I can stay on my habits, but is underestimating the power of being grateful. I mean, when you're young, you're kind of grateful by nature. Most of us are, because you're healthy. You've got you don't have as much stress. So being grateful is you almost take it for granted that I got this life. It's going to be like this forever. And as you get older, you start realizing there's a lot of power in the mind, and whether you're dealing with trying to find that mental place through nutrition and physical activity, or through your business, or through your religion, wherever it is, it's all a journey just to try to enjoy what we have. Because no matter how hard Ed Jones work, it's all temporary, right?
We rent these bodies, we don't own them, and the tides of life are always going to shift and change. If there's anything that's absolute in my 63 years, the only thing absolute is change. And to not embrace that is a recipe for a very difficult life, because the more we try to control the outside world, which cannot be controlled, the more fear that we probably will induce within ourselves. That doesn't mean we don't work hard. It doesn't mean we don't have intent, but planting the seeds and then stepping back sometimes was what may be the wisest thing, to watch what we plant grow as we tend it. Tending it is different than controlling it. I really, I fall off the wagon constantly, but, not listening to the chattering mind that tends to make me do other things that has always been disastrous for joyfulness and happiness is kind of an ongoing challenge. And yes, being grateful is part of the whole picture of seeing the dark and the light as a curriculum of life that is giving us a type of schooling that hopefully will open our closed eyes for seeing life differently, because life is not really a race where it's all about accumulating and whoever gets the most goodies wins. I mean, how many people who are filthy rich are probably as miserable as anyone on earth? The things we have many times own us. We don't own them.
Well, you said a couple things. First of all, you said something before we started the show that I'm going to give you credit for once. And after that, it's totally mine. I'm stealing it. But I watched a post from a mutual friend we have, Matt Davis, and he started, and Adam Chauncey, and I've seen some of your posts and your daughter's post, but I've seen these posts now. You said something about planting seeds and tending them. A lot of the stuff that people have been practicing that I grew up with, even I was very active in the gym, ran a gym for a long time. A lot of these things that people like you, though, have been preaching forever are starting to see the fruition of that this year. This has been a year where I think if you have been preaching about wellness of the mind, health of the body, what you put in, you get out, whether it's for mental, if people have been stuck at home and figured out how detrimental their habits are, or from what you and Matt and Adam and everybody talk about. You've planted these seeds of the vitamins and the herbs along with medicine and doctors and the fine balance. And now this year, man, we're ending the year. We're flooded with that now. We were talking a few months ago how disappointed we were it's not out as much. Well, the last 2 months, the zinc, the magnesium, all these things now that we've been talking about since March and April are now front and center.
They are. And I've told this the past few weeks on more occasions than I remember. I've said I did not ever believe I would live long enough to see a shift in the approach and attitudes toward the power that I have lived my life believing in of nutrition. And I'm not saying just the public. I'm saying medical professionals who a year ago would have never recommended their patients to come to Nutrition World in order to take supplements that are supposedly unregulated, which they're not. They are regulated very well, not perfect, but very well. I mean, just this past week, the Eastern Virginia Medical School put out a protocol for the virus.
I saw that.
Yeah, it went viral, of course, all over the news media. It's exactly what my podcast has been talking about, The Holistic Navigator, when I interviewed Dr. Roundtree and Dr. Michael Smith. And I have to be cautious not saying that I'm saying things because I don't want to get in trouble. But this is exactly most of the nutrients, the vitamin C, the D3, the B complex, the zinc, huge importance of melatonin that becomes healthier, not melatonin just to sleep. So these things we know, and this has a thing like prophylactically, this is what you do. Or if you're at home and you're sick, this is what you do. Or if you're on the hospital floor, this is what you do. They're finally embracing it. It's lovely.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those silver linings we can pull out of a kind of a crappy year for a lot of people. What's up, Terry Mall? Happy New Year to you as well. For some reason, my computer thing isn't showing me my dashboard, so I'm looking at my phone to make sure we're not missing comments or people. Well, so I love that thing that you posted that you just went over, and I'm going to go over. I don't really care how many podcasts we have, as long as this information is out there. New people may be seeing this. I'm going to ask you some questions about those supplements in just a minute. But you said something before we went on the podcast, and you said something that people get loyal to your suffering.
They're loyal to their suffering.
To their suffering, yeah. Well, I think when I read it though, loyal to our suffering or their suffering is because as a human being, I think that's true not only in our physical world, mental world. We almost get comfortable in whatever state we're in, right? We get comfortable with melancholy or depression. It's easy to sit and just wrap yourselves in a comfortable spot.
Well, those comfortable spots are frozen spots, and yes, there's less risk when you're frozen because you're not taking a step toward any certain direction. And I think sometimes I've heard a long time ago that there's more fear in being successful in business than there is being a failure. And I can tell you that is very true. Most people fail in business. 80% of businesses go out. When you finally feel that you have turned the corner to succeed, all of a sudden, it's lonely up there at that top of running a business, and you're scared crapless about, I don't know if I can hold this together. And it's true of life too, in many cases, with relationships, earning, physical fitness. I told a girl at Gold's Gym about 2 months ago, her name was Paige. She's not young, and she had trained very hard to get in this bodybuilding contest, and she had the best attitude because she wasn't just BSing. She said, I'm not competing against anyone up there. I'm competing against myself because I've never done this. And I said, do you know how much guts it takes to stand up on a stage after training for 9 months like a slave and stand up there and present yourself? I said, one in 500,000 anyway, that can have that kind of stuff inside that can pull them up there. And I think about I fly small airplanes. When I was growing up and I was a teenager, I think if someone had come to Brainerd High School and said, how many of you kids would like to go fly in a small airplane? I think 80% would have raised their hand. Today, 10%. People are frozen in fear. And when I got divorced 6 years ago, I made a commitment that my middle name was going to change. I changed it to Yes. And I've said that 500 times because I've lived my life with a no middle name. If somebody said, would you like to go to this new restaurant? No, I've not been there. I don't think I'll like it. You want to learn to dance? Oh, no, I could never dance. All the way down the list. Well, I decided that I'm in the fourth quarter of my life. It's not going to go into overtime very long, probably. And I'm going to say yes. Because I've said yes, the whole world is opened up for me with stories and memories, with people, and learning to salsa dance and doing all the crazies that I do that's reasonable crazies, all because I made that commitment 6 years ago. I'm not going to have no as my middle name. How many people, if they think about it and are listening to me, really, truly say no far more than they say yes? I will not say yes to something super risky or stupid or will hurt someone else. But I'm going to say yes if you ask me to go do something and I can do it and it's not going to hurt somebody.
You know, a couple years ago when I was doing the boxing thing and I've done other stuff, and business owners part of this feeling too. But how often, as you get older, do you still get the chance to feel nervous about stuff? You know, because as I get older, all my first are over, right? Your first girlfriend, if you had a marriage, if you've had your kids, you've changed jobs, you've had to move. All these big time first kind of start becoming seconds and thirds. And eventually it becomes part of the background noise of your life. And when things start happening to you, you just don't get nervous as much anymore because I've been there and done that. Yeah, I get it. So when you say yes to things that are out of your comfort zone and you can be in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, 70s, and it makes you nervous, that giddy feeling of, I don't know if I can make it. That's good to experience that later in life, because sometimes it's easy to get sad and go, well, those moments are done. When in reality, you can create those things, right?
You can create a decision making within your own heart to have a very colorful, exciting life. And I see a few people who actually are struggling terribly on one or two avenues of life, from health or something else. And they do have that gratitude still. Now, they don't just wake up with it. We have to work at this. You know, enlightenment is not a birthright. It's something we have to really put efforts toward. And no one's going to wave a wand in order for us to have that veil open up that makes us see life in a different context. And the thing is, what I've learned, again, and we're certainly not talking about nutrition, but that's great. I love this conversation, is the thinking mind is your worst enemy. It is a wonderful servant and it's a horrible master. And we believe our thoughts so deeply, and our thoughts really are nothing but programming. Back when I'd said no to everything, well, that was my thoughts. No, I don't want to do this. Well, all of a sudden it became a yes. Well, where did that come from? The world didn't change. I changed how I perceived it and how I processed it. So being loyal to our suffering, again, is a safety net. And I encourage people to at least be mindful of the fact that that's happening. That is the first step to improve, is becoming mindful and being able to see it. Not going to change if you don't see it. I mean, if you were really overweight and you never looked at the scale and didn't look at a mirror, you're never going to know that you're overweight. So we have to be monitoring this monkey mind of ours.
Yeah, one of the things when you were talking, I wrote down is our inner voice. I consider it's almost like code for a computer. What you're constantly running in your mind is coding your brain to react, to respond, to answer certain ways. Just like if you program a computer with certain code that's always running, you're going to get a kind of a predictable outcome. So if I'm always saying these things to myself, if I'm always either giving myself a break and not holding myself accountable, if I'm always too hard on myself, if I'm not walking a fine balance, my outcomes, my decisions are going to change. And the other thing I wrote down is the other thing I think our society has kind of drifted to, and I'm as guilty as anybody from time to time, but is this: I'm going to go buy pills at Ed Jones' place and I'm going to be fixed. In other words, my knee's hurting, I'm going to take a pill, I'm going to take a powder, I'm going to go to the doctor, I'll feel better. And so it relieves me of anything that I have to do. Do I need to stop eating differently? Do I need to lose a little weight? I just come into Ed and I go, Ed, here's my problem. What aisle do I fix energy on?
That is so blatantly true of all of us, including me at times. I want easy fixes. And I'm not in the world of health and nutrition because I know better, but in other parts of my life, heck yes, I do, but not realistic. And the thing is, with health, we have lived in a society that is a medical training and a medical world that doesn't really believe in healing. It believes in treating symptoms. So as long as you can have a red light on your dashboard, let's put a piece of tape on it so you don't see it, and we'll muffle the noise of the engine so you're fine. Let's just, and you call me in 6 months if you need more work. That's really 80% of medicine. Unless you have a true bacterial infection, or you need a tumor removed, or you just had a heart attack,
Or something's broke. Yeah.
yeah, then you go, of course. And they're wonderful. They have a great toolbox, but they don't have a toolbox for healing. That's what 2020 has taught people, is they finally realize that the wizard isn't behind the curtain of the medical office. They can't wave those wands with those magic drugs, because obviously they really don't even have a drug that works. So what works? Healthy, robust immune systems that we go into the race prepared. We don't get in the race and then start preparing. You know, you don't get in my airplane and then decide I'm going to put on a parachute and see how fun it is to jump and land on the ground. You would do practicing before that would ever happen. Well, we need to practice to build our health system up within. And we have a pharmacy in here. Walgreens has one on the corner. Hey, Ed Jones and Clint Powell has better pharmacies right in here. 70% of the world uses botanical medicines. That's herbal nutritional medicine. Why is that? Safe, inexpensive, works. You got to know what you're doing, have good company. So there is some disclaimers, but it works. And third leading cause of death in this country is pharmaceutical drugs, properly given by the book and properly taken. That was in the New England Journal of Medicine. Third leading cause of death. Scary stuff. 1 or 2 drugs you might get by with. You start getting 3, 4, 5. The average Tennessean's on 17 drugs per year.
Wow.
Disastrous.
Well, and two, one of the things that when you were talking, and then we're going to talk some specifics, because you got a new product you want to talk about too, but I think our definition, and I don't know, not all of us, people like you have been doing this, and other folks that I associate with, as a society, I think our definition may be changing, or we're just actually tuning in to the definition of healthy. In other words, healthy isn't just lack of pain. Excuse me. Healthy isn't just I sleep okay. Those are all components of being healthy, but healthy is truly, am I living the best life I possibly can for whatever pre-existing genetic, leg broke, whatever my situation is? Have I controlled what I can control so I'm living my best life? Healthy now this year has really focused on our mental state, our nutrition, our activity, the sunlight, all of these things that are in our control. I just don't think we've been defining healthy right for decades now, right?
Well, you know, we all tend to look at the average as normal and probably good. Well, the average health today, yes, we are still living a lot of years, but many people live to 75 to 80, but they really died at 40. When I say died, they're foggy thinking, lack of energy, no libido, loss of muscle tissue, no real optimism, melancholy, all the things that come. And people have become believing that that's kind of the way it is. It's not the way it's supposed to be. And if you think of yourself the last time you had food poisoning and you were throwing up, I don't care what the most gorgeous sunrise that morning would have been. Would you have enjoyed it? You would have not enjoyed it. You would not even cared about it because you felt so lousy. Well, a lot of this country is feeling that bad most days of the week and month. It doesn't have to happen. Our bodies want to be healthy. They crave it. We need to build the harmony within the body with the emotional and the physical and the nutritional. And you don't have to go live in a cave to do this. I have worked 43 years to just use myself as a guinea pig. And even with that, I can drop dead this afternoon, Clint, from a blood clot. We all can. Life is risky, but I've lived 63 great years of robust life. Have my ups and downs, but generally on top of my game for 63 years, only not because of genetics, because of my connection to the gym, my connection to taking the nutrients that I do and the knife and fork that I do, and my meditative life. I mean, all 4 of those work together. But I don't want people to think that it's not possible. We have about 300 people a day who come through Nutrition World now. And of course, I talk on the radio and I do all my podcasts and I do the Holistic Navigator. I like being an educator, but with that comes feedback. And I continue, and you talked about earlier about getting giddy and a little nervous. I still get the cold chills when I hear the stories of people who have embraced a 4 to 8 week, I'm going to get my crap together. I'm going to eat right. I don't care how much it takes with discipline and my cravings and that little bit extra money. Time for me to turn the corner. What do I do, Ed Jones? Or what do I do, Adam or Katie, one of my coaches, or on my podcast? Hey, you put together, I challenge people, you do what I say or recommend for 4 to 8 weeks, you'll never go back to the old way. If you can stick with it for minimum 4, I prefer 8. That means my breakfast drink in the morning and taking my core 4 supplements, working on some home lifestyle things.
Well, we're going to talk about that because we're going to keep it about, you got about another 10 minutes for me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Good? I also want to, I hate having people participate and us not acknowledge them. What's up, Terry Mull? I went to high school with Terry Mull, former police officer. Now I think he does. I think he owns or runs something very important in construction. I do believe. Chrissy says, Happy New Year. We always get all of our pills at Nutrition World. They are wonderful. And then she also said wonderful people. So thank you very much for joining us and saying that. All right. So you mentioned a product before we came on, and I said we're going to have redundancy in these videos because I think it's important for people to understand it. So I'm going to ask you about these supplements we're hearing about in the news. And if you can just and I know you've done it before, so thank you for your patience, but let's just keep it to 15 to about a 30-second definition of what this thing does, why it's important for us. And then I'm going to, at the end of it, ask you, when they come in to ask you about it, are there certain products specifically? So what is zinc and why is zinc important? People are seeing this everywhere now. Zinc. Is it not just important, not just for viruses, right?
It's important for hair, skin, immune systems, eye health, you name it. If you're deficient in zinc, really bad things are going to happen. And again, this mistaken idea that, I eat healthy, so I get everything. I can tell you from absolute fact, if someone who just is 50 years old, they eat very healthy, if they'll do the blood testing, I really recommend, they'll see that they're on the average scale. Average meaning 0's dead, 100's optimal. They'll be 50 to 60 on what I would rate them. That means they're not optimal. And so zinc is the biggest thing about zinc, and we're going to talk about quercetin with zinc. We sold 900 bottles of this in the past 4 weeks. Why is that? Because finally the research that we knew years ago is finally surfacing. And quercetin forces zinc into the cell. What that does for 2020 and the next 2021 is it keeps the immune system from going overboard to attack a virus. That's why people get in severe symptoms. 98% of everyone you're seeing on the news has risk factors. And I hate to say this, and please no one think that I have any harsh or cruel feelings or that I want people to be suffering with this virus. Of course I don't. I've lived my whole life to help relieve suffering of people's health. But if you look at most of their faces, you can tell from their face alone that they're obese. They're not just overweight, they're obese. Secondly, if they're not, then they have blood sugar issues. And then thirdly, they're malnourished and they're low in vitamin D. And these things are fixable.
But real quick, Ed, when you say malnourished, and I want to go back and we're talking about zinc, but when you say malnourished, it doesn't mean you're underfed, Clint.
Oh,
that means you're just not, Clint Powell can be eating plenty, but not getting what I need to be healthy.
Health comes from balanced blood chemistry. And what destroys that is too many carbohydrates of the wrong place. If there's one single sentence, it's that. I have not had any carbohydrates this morning because I do my breakfast drink every day, which is made of metagenics and my green powder and hemp. Do it every day with water, Monday through Friday. Then I eat on Saturday or Sunday. And then I had one piece of cheese at 8:30 before walking in the gym. I will eat about 50 carbs Monday through Friday. What that does is make us metabolic flexible. That means that we are able within to handle almost anything that comes our way with infections. We're not rigid and we have ability to function and compromise and work toward getting well quickly.
Well,
not metabolically flexible, you can't do it. And zinc and quercetin are two of the biggest things that people need to be taking, because quercetin helps sinuses. It makes you not have swellings of histamines. So it's the whole world, doesn't know much about nutrients, and sad, because again, they work and they have almost no side effect.
Well, and I'm glad you brought it back to talking zinc and quercetin, and I hope I'm saying that right. And again, when we wrap up, I'm gonna go through this list. When we wrap that up, I want to make sure people know to come in and ask for certain products. You mentioned melatonin, and I always think about that with sleep. So you told us what zinc and quercetin is important for. Melatonin, what does that help with? Your lungs? What does melatonin help with other than sleep?
You know what? Actually, I thought I was well schooled in most of nutrition. I really let melatonin fall to the wayside because I used to think it bothered me. Well, I've been looking at PubMed and all of the research on melatonin. First off, it's a hormone, not a nutrient. Second, after age 30, it drops significantly. Thirdly, it's actually produced by everything from the retina in the eye to the kidneys to the heart. And when we're deficient, things suffer. Macular degeneration. Absolutely, people need to be doing melatonin, anti-aging, melatonin. Even if you sleep well, you know what? I'm doing 10 milligrams a night now, and I'm going to continue that for the rest of my life. Yes, I do sleep a little better with it.
Wait a minute, real quick. You do 10?
10, and I'm going to probably up it to 20 because of the research showing the anti-cancer effects, the anti-this effect, the anti-that effect. It is beyond belief the potential what melatonin can do for our overall health, and it's so freaking cheap. D and melatonin is the two least expensive products ever sold in this country.
I just came in and bought some a couple of days, last week, and or maybe Saturday. But I didn't know the melatonin you could take it that high. I need to, because I'm taking just like 1.5 to 3 milligrams a night, maybe 2 pills. But you've got podcasts. If people want to go back and listen to this, the holisticnavigator.com, you've done podcasts on melatonin, so they can go check those out. You'd mentioned vitamin D. Again, if you're on social media and you didn't know anything about vitamin D in 2019, you'd be hard pressed right now to go to your social media feed and not see everybody talking about 80% of those found in severe conditions are vitamin D deficient.
Absolutely. And in fact, on Vital Health Radio, Dr. Melvin, right down the road at Eastgate, I love her to death. She's a big proponent of nutrition, but she treats COVID with a mixture of what I think is best, a mixture of pharmaceutical with nutrients. And it was the most amazing 14-minute interview because most of her patients are 75 years old plus. That means huge risk factor just because of age. And she has an incredible track record with these patients because she does IV vitamin C if needed. In fact, the Lancet came out and said that was a rescue remedy now. She does the D. She puts them on all these things immediately when she gets a diagnosis. That's why she's having such success. So, Dr. Melvin, you can go to vitalhealthradio.com. Go back and listen to it. It's 14 minutes long. So we have the tools, people, and don't think that you can't be part of finding those tools. Go to the Holistic Navigator if you want to hear Dr. Smith or Dr. Roundtree. They've got the protocols. They tell you exactly what to do. So it's not hard. You just take some pills.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C is, and
it's cheap too, real quick too. It's not very expensive either.
Super cheap. Linus Pauling, who the Nobel Peace Prize winner, who was a proponent of vitamin C big time, probably, I'm guessing in about the 60s he started. Well, to show you the attitudes of, again, the community at large, I think he lived to 93 years old. When he died, the headline said, "See, vitamin C doesn't work." That was the old mentality. Guess what, people? 2020 has changed it. They cannot keep burying the truth forever. It's finally surfaced. Vitamin C is, there's only 3 creatures on Earth who can't make their own vitamin C. This little guinea pig and this little monkey and us. Everything else, if they get sick, their vitamin C shoots up massively during infections. That's one reason that we're not as healthy as those other animals. Well, we can shoot it up ourselves with a few pills for a buck.
All right, mushrooms. And now I put some now, I've got my green drink I showed you too. I take I do mushrooms in a powder form. I take about, I think it's like half of a little scoop, not very, very little amount, but I mix it in my green drink every morning. But again, once I started talking to you, I didn't realize mushrooms played this big a role in our immune system, depending on what mushroom you get. And now I'm starting to even read, and this isn't even on my list, but they're doing research now about CBD and hemp helping the lung functions if they start to get sick too. But mushrooms, especially, I added that to my list about 2.5 months ago.
I don't want to overwhelm people because the list could be endless. You could end up taking what I do, which no one needs to take as much as I do. But pick and choose based on wisdom and information. If you have a weakened immune system, and I know you've had some issues with that over the years, it's do mushrooms because they work and they're safe. And if you listen to Jerry Angelini on the Holistic Navigator, you go through the research, you're like, why did I wait so long to even think about mushrooms? Well, because there's kind of under the radar. I will have to say that I am, being the guinea pig that I am, I'll drag my feet on this, but I am injecting peptides. I started last Monday.
What?
And so peptides are natural amino acids that are deal with communication within the body. So it's telling my body parts at 63 what it used to tell at 20 that it didn't need help to tell. The phone was very clear back when I was 20 within. Now it's not. I've looked at it deeply. I'm not one to delve into this lightly just because guys at the gym are doing it or somebody else. But after looking at the literature, it's if you have a budget to support it, Dr. Melvin, and we have Dr. Wagner, two physicians who will be doing the peptides for patients. And
do you just inject them into your? Is it like sub fat? Is it in your muscles, the legs? How do you do it?
It's in the muscle. It's in the butt. I got my first one last Monday, and I'm going to do it every Monday for 6 weeks. Supposedly, my goal is this: anything that hasn't healed up or is sore and hurting will all be healed up in 6 weeks.
Really? Well, see, now you got me wanting to investigate.
Well, and my friend Brian, or your friend Brian Connell.
Yeah.
One of the convincing things to me is, and he wouldn't care if I said this, he was doing peptides, and then he fell at his house walking up his steps. Well, he skinned his shin probably as bad as anyone I've ever seen. And you know how crazy he is. He couldn't stop it from bleeding at midnight, so he put Gorilla Glue on it.
Of course.
Glue. Of course, Brian would do that. But that thing healed up like I've never seen. I mean, he's 63 like me. You don't heal a shin on a 63-year-old at that rate. So I knew at that moment that peptides were going to work.
I'm anxious to get some feedback from you in the next 3-4 weeks, how you're feeling. And that's an interesting test right there. You alluded to one real quick, and I said we're going to talk about this before I bring up my last question. Somebody walks into your place right now and they're wanting to find out about all of these products. Of course, your staff can help them. But are there 1 or 2 products where they have multiple of these in it? Like I take one called Immune that you talked about 3 months ago. I actually went and bought a couple of bottles and gave them to my kids and my mom, and my kids. And if they were to walk in, are there certain products that they could buy that have multiple of these in them, or do they need to come in and buy individual? Because it seems overwhelming if I have to do that.
Well, the issue is things need to be matched with the person's health, probably somewhat, and also the goals. You know, a 40-year-old who's super healthy, who truly does supplement, exercise, do the right things, is going to be different than the 40-year-old who's 40 pounds over with blood sugar issues. The NutriBio immune formula and vitamin D, if you just did those 2 things, you're going to have far better immune response than anyone who doesn't do them. Now, if you get what I call under the weather, you really double the dose. That's what you do instead of the regular dose. Now, check with your doctor if you're being treated for medical conditions. But the other thing is people who want to step up to a level of far greater health for 2021, the core 4. I've spent 43 years looking at people's health, and I kept walking in the store and I'd say, how does anyone decide on what to take in here? We have 7,000 products unless you really sit down and really know what you want or talk to. And I said, it's impossible. So I really worked hard to come out with what is the basic things that the platform of health has to have, almost like a foundation of a building with concrete. What does it have to stay sturdy? We know the core 4, omega-3s, the right dose, right quality, multivitamin, probiotics, a green drink, and we actually had to add 2 more things to it. So it should be called something like core 6, but vitamin D and magnesium. That is a platform that if no one does anything else the rest of their life, they are going to be better served.
So go ahead. I was going to say they come in and get the Super Six. The Super Six.
Well, we're gonna have to do something like, I don't want to change the word 4. It's in all the literature, but Core 4 Plus.
There you go. There you go. Marketing. This is how marketing happens, world, right here. We're having a marketing meeting. Hey, just a quick flip as a business owner. 2020 has been very challenging. I do a lot of conversations with business owners, and I used to have a radio show that I talked about business all the time. As a business owner, did 2020 change how you look at preparing for next year? Because most of the time, the last couple of months as a business owner, you're recapping how the year went. You're looking at your numbers, your marketing strategies, you're having your meetings, and then you're trying to make some sort of predictions, put plans in place for the next year. Well, 2020 has kind of thrown all that up in the air because you don't know what's going to happen. Has it changed as a business owner how you look at getting ready?
Of course it has. And if it doesn't change us as entrepreneur business owners, I'm probably going to say that it was going to be a dismal future for those businesses who did not adapt, come up with new ideas, think outside the box, and sharpen their sword. I call it sharpening your sword. The businesses who put up the Nazi signs of do not enter with almost skull and crossbones and have that attitude, and their need to please the client customer was about 5th on their list. Number 1 was enforcing, harsh rules. Now, enforcement's fine. I don't mind that. It's all about the attitude of enforcement and the presentation of enforcement. We enforce it very well at Nutrition World. But we do it with kindness and tactfulness. The businesses who did not step up to the plate, who realized these people work hard for their money. They come into my business after working hard. I appreciate the fact that they're willing to spend their hard-earned dollars at Nutrition World. Well, I'm going to be grateful for those people. And I've walked out of several businesses because they had such harsh attitudes. So sharpening the sword, offering the ability to connect where the client wants. Okay, we now do video conferencing. Okay, we go to your car and bring your products for you. We have, delivery within the town with local delivery. We have all the other delivery services. You name it, we do it. And of course, online has tripled in 2020. And one of the grateful things, again, it tripled. And that's been a blessing to me because I was scared very much, as all of us were in March and April, that I might lose this business. And I have 26 employees and 17 practitioners. And if I go down, they go down.
Yeah. One of the things that I know we talked about months ago, back, I would say in the peak of this year when everything was kind of shut down, people were starting to get sick, more sick. It became what it was. I know we talked several times that you're always in the store. Every time I've known you for 20 something years, you're always working the floor. You're always in the store. You're hands on. This is not a business owner who just turns on the lights and goes and vacations. You're a very hands-on business owner with your customers. But even with that being said, this year you had to jump back in more because some employees were out sick. Some employees didn't feel comfortable. The store was having to shut down due to government, requirements, all these things. But you were actually like, the more you got active back on the floor, you liked it. You were like, that's good for me as a business owner to do more of that, right?
It was not that I liked it, but I can tell you, looking back and reflecting on it, I needed it. The store needed it. I had delegated far too many things to people, and I still worked just as hard. I just had other actions that I did in the store. But me getting back on the saddle and really, really having my finger on the pulse of the business, which Katie will end up doing, and she does a lot of that now, my daughter, is the key. I mean, I was hoping to slow down. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. I do have to take more time off in hopefully 2021. You can only, I don't care how much you love chocolate, you can only eat so much of it. I love what I do, but I have to start doing a little better for me. So I'm my own worst enemy on that one now. There's no doubt.
I would love, and we've tried this last year, and it was on my end, just learning curve, but down the road, I would love to set up a program where people that watch our videos get some sort of discount or some sort of product sampling from these conversations. Cause I think it could drive some business, but I also think some of the folks that listen to this, I don't know if it's I only have so much of a budget to spend, and I buy what I'm comfortable with. I'd like to try that product because I will get finished with this, and I've sent them to you. I will get 2 or 3 messages about, can you ask about this? Can you do that? And I'm like, yeah, I just did 45 minutes with a guy. You could jump on. He'll answer your questions.
I tell you what, we're going to work that out for 2021 somehow. Right now, anyone who comes in on the day after you hear this, I'll have 3 bottles of CBD from Garden of Life. And if you tell me, just ask for me, tell me that you heard this on this podcast, they're worth $40 a bottle. I'll give you a bottle, just the first 3 people. So let's do that this time.
So that's tomorrow or today?
We're
Oh,
closed.
You're not open today.
Yeah. So tomorrow when we reopen, I do my radio show on Saturday morning. So I get here a little bit late, like 10:30, but yeah, just ask for me or Scott, and one of us will give you the bottle of CBD. And I love Garden of Life CBD.
That's what I take.
It, it does so many wonderful things for me.
Well, I appreciate that. I was throwing it out there as just something for us to work on, like a resolution, and you went ahead and made it happen. But the reason I think these conversations are so good, Ed, and then I'm going to let you go. You put content out on Nutrition World, the Vital Health Radio, the Holistic Navigator. You go on TV shows, you do your social media. But moving into next year, now moving into this year now, I really think this is a good time for people to start taking all the crap they've heard the last 6 months and making a plan to be healthier. Now, they'll never be able to do your pull-ups maybe or your jump ropes, but,
we are in life, or I am, and only person I really compete with is myself if I'm in the good place. And if I can do 1 more push-up this week than I did last week, even if last week was 3 and I did 4, hey, I just won. And I really do believe in clean beginnings make it easier for people. Well, that is what today is. It's a clean start with a new year. And it doesn't mean that we are guaranteed anything, but it kind of lets us take that eraser and erase the old stuff on the chalkboard, and let's start writing again. And if there's one thing that is so important, is the word boldness. Boldness is the beginning of any action. If you do it half-heartedly, you don't have ownership in it, it's probably going to spiral pretty quickly. So I encourage people to know, one, that they have, almost no matter what level of health you are, how you feel, there is room for vast improvement, not little, if you delve into the inner pharmacy by using lifestyle management, emotional management, and nutritional management. But you have to have a team. And I say this constantly, don't think WebMD is your buddy. It's not. WebMD is controlled very much by the larger institutions who don't want you to believe in functional nutritional medicine. That means that you are the owner of this. They want to be the owner of it, and you rent it. So I want to be the place where you can learn and help you to educate and help you embrace your ability to not survive, but to go to the top of your life and have the ability to think clearly, feel good most of the time. Do I feel good all the time? No, but 80% of the time I am totally functional. I can do whatever I want. That's pretty darn good for 63. So I want to be the place. I want to be your team if you need a team and can't find somebody else.
Give me thumbs up or thumbs down. We're going out of here. Have you ever done what's the cold therapy? Do you still do it?
I haven't, but I did buy 2 certificates for lucidity to do the float tank again. I used to love the float tank, so I'm getting back in the float tank next couple weeks.
Don't do it. I get claustrophobic thinking about it. Don't do that, Ed.
Stop. I've done. I love it. I'm addicted to it. I actually saw lights in it one time, and there were no lights. It was coming from me, not from out there.
That's creepy, and I don't want to talk about that anymore. Do you do the sauna? Do you do the ultra whatever it is sauna?
Every day.
Okay, last one. This is the one I want to try because I think my hips and my back need it. Do you do the inversion table?
No, I hurt my back in January. It's not my friend. I don't like the pressure in my eyes and the other things. I like traction, but it's just too much for me. Nope, not my buddy.
See, that's why I like asking you those questions. We get honest opinions from Ed Jones. All right, everybody, go check out the Holistic Navigator, Vital Health Radio, nutritionw.com. All that's in this description. Thanks for the folks that tuned in. First 3 people tomorrow that go in and talk to Ed or Scott and say they heard it on the podcast get a bottle of CBD from Garden of Life. It's a $40 value. That was not why I asked that, Ed Jones, but thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it greatly as always.
Happy New Year, sir.
Same to you and everyone.
Bye, everybody.